All right, this isn't a joke, but it's just something that our kids have been saying to us, and I think it's kind of funny. They've been walking around in kind of a like bullied, mocking fashion, and they're like, "You have a little hoo-hoo."
How old are they?
They're 3 and 4, and they're just out here telling people they have little hoo-hoos, and we keep asking them, like, what is that? What is a little hoo-hoo? And they never explain. Yeah, they never explain. So it could be a million things, but we take it personally, like it's talking about our genitals.
They figured out the worst insult you could ever give to anybody.
Yeah.
They don't even know that they're doing
and they're nailing it. Yeah, they're nailing it. So we're walking around all insecure, wondering if they've seen our hoo-hoos, and just sitting in judgment. But
it's funny, man.
Yeah, it's a good life.
Yeah, I love having little kids like that. They say, man.
Yeah. So the question I have for today is breathwork just a buzzword?
I love that you're doing this. It's like becoming like really, really popular, and we're drinking the Kool-Aid.
Oh, we're fire engine, water hose. Just
you get to drink from the fire hose.
Yeah.
Both you and I are actually really drinking through the fire hose right now. So I know that you're like setting this up so that we can talk about how much we love breathwork.
Yes, essentially.
Right.
And is it crazy that we like it that much?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, let's talk breathwork today. Why don't you start? Talk about kind of. I mean, we've always been really into like mindfulness,
right?
Meditation, and some of the things that we've done. Mindfulness meditation include certain kinds of breathwork. But you had a recent experience that sort of turned us on to like a whole new world.
Yeah, so and this was at the recommendation of Brandon. So B went to this breathwork workshop. It ended up being a really seriously good experience for him. He said he was able to release some resentments and bitterness he had around a certain relationship, and I was like, well, that sounds awesome. Like, cool. Yeah, I don't have any of those resentments to work on. So tell me about it and maybe I'll go check it out. So he explained what it was. Is this guy called Vitality Martineau or something like that. And regardless of his background or anything, the process is called holotropic breathwork. And the goal being that you super oxygenate your brain.
You almost unoxygenate it by hyperventilating.
Yeah, the other way. So you saturate it with carbon dioxide, essentially. And it puts you in kind of this different state. So much so that people will often have psychedelic experiences. They'll have semi-spiritual or even full-blown spiritual experiences. And at first I was like,
come on,
dude, is this just like a cult, devil worshiping? Like, what are you doing exactly? Is this, maybe they sprinkle something in the air while you're, did you worship him as your leader? Like what else is going on here? So it sounded like it's got all the markings of something fishy, but the more I looked into it broadly, it's not just this guy. There's plenty of history beyond this, and there's more research that's coming out around this that kind of points to it being a valid form of therapy in some way, and that it might actually be healing.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I went to this experience, I was open-minded. I participated fully, committed to the process, and it yielded really interesting and wonderful fruits. Mm-hmm. I'm still trying to understand what the heck happened, because it was so wildly different from any other type of breathing that I'd done. Maybe with the Wim Hof breathing being the most similar.
Yes.
And I'm excited to learn more, explore it a little bit more. That's what I've been doing, you've been doing, for the purpose of our retreat. And even just beyond that with the therapy practice and whatever else. And so it was monumental in that singular experience. Two different experiences that I've had with breathwork now have been eye-opening, and I think enriching in helping me live a more wholehearted life.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious what it is that you've been learning and what it is that's been impactful for you.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Well, you're the one that kind of came back. So I'm the slow one on the uptake on a lot of these things. So Brandon's the one that's way out there, and then you go and
I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, okay, they didn't die, and I still think they're pretty normal.
That was probably another bird,
There's a
dude.
grouse right there. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to find that in a second. But I'm the one that's slow on the uptake. So when you both come back and you're like, hey, there's something to this, and you didn't tell me the depths of your experience, but you said, same kinds of things Brandon said. I started looking into it too, and it's interesting because a lot of people, when they even hear the term holotropic breathwork, it sounds like, ooh, like the person who came up with the name actually was a hippie who used acid. So like the way holotropic breathwork came about, I mean, it's been around forever, for thousands and thousands of years, but the person who termed the coin holotropic breathwork was actually using psychedelics and breathing together in therapy, and found that the breath work itself could sometimes almost produce a similar response to the psychedelic drug, even without the drug. And so what people are finding, and what the theory is that there's a few things that go on with the holotropic breath work. For thousands of years, they've used it for basically emotional coping and release, trauma release. They've used it for basically groundedness, becoming more grounded, and to try to lower the ego, so to speak, the mind that's always thinking, that keeps kind of the gates locked around certain experiences that maybe we're afraid of, or places that we're afraid to go. The breath work actually seems to find a way through that first armor of the ego, and allows for the other parts of ourselves, some of the subconscious, some of the spiritual parts of us, to sort of be opened and unlocked. And so that's the theory behind it, right? What's interesting is it's been around forever, and there is some research on it, but it's actually a fairly under-researched field. And I think one of the reasons why it's becoming more popular to talk about is because of the uptake on the psychedelics for therapy.
Right, yeah.
And because that's so closely tied to that, I think that's also coming into more of the forefront of this stuff actually really works.
Yeah.
And in my own learning so far, I didn't go to an event like you guys did, but I've been doing some of this, and I've had two different experiences. I've done a lot of them.
Yeah,
but
right.
I've had two different experiences now that have been very, very spiritually, emotionally valuable to me. And I've experienced the goodness of what I think it's intended to offer now, and so that's why I've like, hey, there might be something to this, and we're developing some of it now too, right? We're like actually trying to learn how to do it better and help produce experiences that could be really valuable for people. And what we're learning about the breath, like we have a guy in one of our groups, he's really into the Wim Hof breathing. What did he say?
You get high on your own supply.
You teach yourself to get high on your own supply. Isn't it amazing that the base mechanism that keeps us alive is also somehow capable of allowing us to have spiritual experiences, to find groundedness in this world, to find peace, to find emotional regulation. Even I did a breath work with one of my women's groups just yesterday, and one of the ladies said, I had this experience where I realized that I was breathing in the same way that I always breathed as a kid when I was in my trauma with the abuse that I was experiencing. And she said, I'm so grateful that God gave me that gift as a child when I didn't even know I had it, to just help me survive. And I thought, what a great way to look at that the breath was actually part of her saving grace, rather than that breath that she was breathing being a bad thing.
A distressor,
right?
yeah.
It was actually a regulator. And I'm talking a lot now, but Yeah. So
No, I think that is such a poignant fact, though. I think about the times that I've learned about it and used it for calming down. So I had only understood it as like, yeah, it keeps you alive, and now I'm learning it can calm you down. It can do something on the other side of the spectrum too.
Totally upregulate.
Yeah, it's like it really is a tool that is so powerful and built into us. It's like everybody has to be able to do it to perpetuate existing.
Yeah.
And they could use it for these other, as a tool. I'm thinking about times where I was trying not to fly off the handle with, kids smearing poop on the wall or whatever the situation was. And
let it all out.
And even just one of those is already like, all right, I've made a switch. But then, doing more of that box breathing, those types of techniques really have value in helping regulate and stabilize. Recently, for whatever reason, we had a hard time falling asleep. And Chelsea got this, it's called a Morphe, and it's a little device that's all it does is have guided breathing, so a little bit of music, and people walking you through kind of body scans and different things. It's a really simple thing, and set it up, turn it on for 8 or 20 minutes, and I'm making a sales pitch at this point.
Yeah, we better be sponsored by
yeah, it's sponsored. But what it's done is allowed us to sleep, though, and all it is sitting there breathing, slowing down your breathing.
A different intentional way of using your breath.
Yeah, right? It's mind-blowing.
Yeah. It's funny, what you're talking about too is one of the skills in DBT is to simply just observe your breathing, and it's to help regulate your emotions. Same thing, it's to not just take a deep breath, but to observe your breath. So observe the in, observe the out. And in your case, it's interesting that what we know about the breath, which is so amazing, that it's accessing both parts of us in terms of our nervous system. The in-breath is giving us that up-breath. And if you only took the in-breath and didn't let it out, you're probably going to do something stupid with your kid. But in that situation, the out-breath, especially an extended out-breath, is the part that's like, put the body to rest. Soften it. It's almost like the in-breath is life and the out-breath is death over and over and over again. And it's up and down, up and down. We're constantly in a cycle. In a lot of ways, it's just like our lives are. Like the people who live the happiest lives know that there's going to be ups and downs in life, and they just embrace it as normal, the same way that we can do with our breath. But if we understand what those parts of our breath do, we can now use it to help navigate this world that we live in, where when I'm trying to fall asleep, I need to actually be breathing out a lot slower and a lot more than I'm breathing in. And eventually, that'll put me to sleep. When I'm, needing to fight, flight, or freeze, or get ready for a sports game, I'm going to be breathing a lot heavier, a lot faster. And the breathing in is the action part. It's going to fuel that adrenaline part. And it just happens automatically. And now we come to understand that that's what it's doing. And it's weird because now that we understand it and choose to do it, it produces even better outcomes than even just by doing it by itself.
Yeah, I was just thinking about kind of two different things. One is that I had a friend from the last men's retreat. He's been full focus on breath work and some of these healing properties, and he sent me a guided breathing meditation, just a little 10-minute thing that he did, and it was really cool. I gave it a shot and felt more grounded. I really like that word when it's not tarnished by the psychedelic kind of realm. Anyway, after doing it, or while doing it, I had this thought of the sunrise. The first time I've ever had this thought. The sunrise is kind of like the breath in for the earth.
And the breath out.
Yeah, the sunset. It's pretty cool.
Same idea.
Yeah, just more of that cycle. And then the other thing that I was thinking about is our experience doing that Wim Hof breathing last year, and I think I just wanted to share a little bit about that, at least from my side. You choose what to do with yours, but
this was at the retreat, right?
Yeah, at the retreat, and it's pretty simple breathing.
Very simple.
Yeah, with the breath holds, they have breath holds at different intervals. By the time I got to the third breath hold, and we want breath, our bodies kind of demand it, right? So whenever we withhold from our bodies in that way, it does something different to us. And a lot of the time in the past, I've viewed it as like, well, the only time I've ever held my breath is underwater, and I don't want to drown. I get in this kind of panic mode. And he's taking you the opposite direction. He's saying, hey, just like you're saying with DBT, just notice.
Just enjoy it.
Yeah, just enjoy it. Like, sit there in that stillness and let it do what it's going to do. And I had one of the most powerful experiences where it felt like the message for me was not even the message. It was just a pure feeling of, I love my own existence.
Yeah.
But
it was more of an experience than it was.
Yes, exactly. A feeling that just full saturation, and it felt like a gift, like it was put in me, in my heart, that I love my own existence. I wasn't searching for it. I didn't think I was that mindful. With any kind of intention going into, like, just be committed to the breathing, and see what happens. But it was like God was there, ready to place that into my heart, and in a way, not even like I'm grateful for my existence. It's I love my own existence, which was an absolute answer to me in some of the things that I've been facing, with the self-hate and self-loathing. It's like that's stuff I got to work on. And here's a gift to get you down that road.
Yeah.
So
it actually gave you direction in your life too. It wasn't just this like high on your own supply.
Right.
I had it was,
oh, how pleasant.
Oh, wow. I actually tapped into some things that are really valuable for me that I can now take and use in my own day-to-day life. Maybe it's a way of being, maybe it's a new thought for yourself, maybe it's a new direction to go. In your case, it was grounding, but grounding in into love.
Yes,
right?
Yeah,
and that we always teach that the greatest fuel source in the world is love, right? And when we're operating from that place, that's where it's the most sustainable and where we do the most good. And I had a similar experience. Mine was slightly different than yours, but at the same experience. That's what's so cool about this breathing too, is you can have 30 people do it, and every person's going to have a slightly different experience. Some will be like, that was stupid. Other people are going to be like, whoa, what just happened?
Right, yeah.
And all across the spectrum. And, and I did the same thing. I remember on the very last round, we did 3 rounds. And the very last round, lying there in that breath hold, I didn't want to breathe in, because everything had gone so still. And then I felt, mine was more of an outside thing rather than an inside thing of I felt just this whole encompassing feeling of fullness and love from the interconnectedness of everything. And I'm sitting there, and then I'm starting to think about the guys I'm laying next to and how much I love them. And I don't even know them other than 2 days,
Right, yeah.
and then I love this lake, and I love the earth, and I just started to expand itself. Whoa, this is awesome. I love feeling love. So it was a really cool experience, and it was so still. I didn't want it to end, and it was good, really good stuff. So we're still learning. I do think there's definitely something to it. I think it's always so incredible that I happen to believe in God, that God created us with built-in mechanisms to be able to navigate this world. And just thinking about what you were saying, that our existence stems off of an in and an out breath, and every day has an in and an out sunrise, and our lives have many in and out iterations of things that we learn or experiences that we go through, of ups and downs. And who knows how far that it's like Inception. Who knows how many layers there are to that cycle?
Yeah, right.
You know, and that's kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful for me to think about. So thanks for bringing that up today. I would have pondered that all day.
That's